There we go. I've worked it out. Hello and welcome to today's live. Still having issues with the tech, but we got there in the end. So, today, what I really wanted to explore with you is about imposter syndrome. It was one of the issues that was raised in my Business Revolution group that they wanted me to talk about today. And I thought it was a great topic, one that is very close to my heart. And I thought this would be a really good opportunity to share some of the myths about imposter syndrome and some of the truths as I see it. Of course, I put it in those kind of contexts. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Andrea Morrison and I'm a transformative coach, and I work with professionals and business owners, and I share with them a very simple understanding about how we work so that they can achieve their potential in their professional lives, but also enjoy life just a little bit more as well. And every day, subject to other commitments, I'm going to try and come on live during your lunch hour just for a short time to share some little nuggets of wisdom on areas that you're struggling with. And I invite you to share those areas with me. So either by messaging me privately, and I'm always happy for people to do that, or by using the comments box below, or sharing it in my Business Revolution group, which is my free community, and just letting me know what's going on for you, and then I can help you in the lives that I'm doing throughout this time. But if you do like them, then, give me a like, let me know, any comments that you have or anything that you're hearing that is new, and feel free to share them as well, because that would be really, really good. So back to the live. What I'd like to explore today is imposter syndrome and some of the myths and some of the truths to really help you see something a little bit different about it, perhaps, and hopefully enable you to do some things that perhaps you didn't think were possible before, because that would be really, really good. So a little bit about me and imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is something that I'm really good at, and it's been part of me for as long as I can remember. And I was brought up, like a lot of people, on the diet of, imposter syndrome is something that's wrong, that it needs fixing, that it's this huge thing and it gets in your way. You need a strategy. You need to be without imposter syndrome. And what I used to do is I used to force myself to do things that I felt really uncomfortable doing, to prove to myself that I could do it. And particularly in my professional career, when I was a barrister, because I felt huge imposter syndrome. Even though, I was talented, I was good at what I did, I didn't see that. And so what I would do is take on bigger cases, more complex cases, to prove to myself that I was good enough, to prove to myself that I was there, that I was, that I had a right to be there, if you like. But I always felt as though I was going to be found out, and I don't know whether anyone else can identify with that, but I always thought I was going to be found out. And I found this strategy, which is one that, was really shared with me as a way to get over imposter syndrome. But I found it really stressful. I didn't find it a helpful strategy at all. I felt like I was more and more and more out of my depth, and the imposter syndrome, instead of getting better, instead of my brain learning that, you did it, you were okay last time, so you'll be okay this time, it just seemed to make me feel like a bigger imposter, and like there was more at stake and more could go wrong. So that really didn't work for me at all. And even when I left the bar and I did other professions. I was a tutor for a while. I ran a holistic therapist practice for a while before I became a coach. I always had this feeling of imposter syndrome. Yeah. Now, some of, as I say, that there were some of the myths there, that imposter syndrome was like a thing, like it was a really insurmountable condition that I needed to get on over, like it was a personality trait of mine that I needed to get rid of, that it was another example of how I was broken. That was all part of the myth, if you like, but it felt true to me. And what I began to see sort of very clearly is that actually there were loads of people that had imposter syndrome. Like I could do a talk and literally say, who here has experienced imposter syndrome? And like the whole room would put their hand up and go, yeah, me, or nod, or make that kind of positive, kind of, yeah. And, we look at like really famous, accomplished people. And before I did this live, I had a quick search of people who'd said that they suffered with imposter syndrome, and there was like Sheryl Sandberg and David Bowie and Maya Angelou and Ariana Huffington, all these really big names of people who were hugely accomplished in their field, and they felt like that too. Okay, so the more that I when I came to this understanding, if you like, that I shared, that was first articulated by a Scottish welder called Sydney Banks, and when I started to kind of unravel imposter syndrome, a number of things kind of came to me that I found helpful. So I hope that you'll find this really helpful too. Well, first of all, that imposter syndrome is like a really human thing. Okay, it's like it's just something that we do. It's a label for a collection of insecure thoughts that we have. And isn't it interesting? Because, if I talk to a client or if I put a post up about imposter syndrome, like everybody has their own version of it, their own flavor, if you like, their own way of describing how imposter syndrome looks to them, how they experience it. And so in my mind, it was like, oh, okay, I thought imposter syndrome was like a thing, like one thing, and it was a thing that identified me. It was something that I did, when in reality, imposter syndrome was thinking. It was thought. It was the same thought that I have about, I don't know, how great something is on TV, or whether I'm going to have what I'm tonight. It has the same, when we look at the nature and the quality of it, it's exactly the same. Now, I know it doesn't give us the same experience, but like at its very basic, it's exactly the same. So, it's made of thought, and I don't have to be scared about thought. I don't have to do anything about thought. I don't have to fix my thought. I just have to understand what it is. Yeah. And what I began to see is, okay, well, I know, or I began to know, and I know more now. Sometimes it still sucks me in, and that's okay, but my insecure thinking, can't really tell me anything. It can't tell me about how I'm showing up. It can't tell me about how qualified I am. It can't tell me about how good I am. It can't tell me about I don't know, anything about me. It really has no information in it at all. Now, it thinks it knows a lot and it thinks it's super helpful, but it really can't tell me anything about me. In my mind, the only useful thing my insecure thinking has is to tell me that I'm not thinking straight. When I get that feeling of like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this, and oh, I need to do another course, or or I'm not seeing enough, or somebody else is seeing more than me, or and whatever it is. It's like, oh, Andrew, you're not seeing this straight. You just gotta like chill out and take a step back and not make any life changing decisions and stuff like that. I'm not in that good space. It's taken me out of my good space. So it's like a signal, if you like, like a uh, yeah, is a warning sign that actually I'm not on track anymore, and that's about as much use as it is, right? It's about as much use as it is. So what then I began to notice even more is that, oh, okay, I do this a lot, you know. I do the same kind of insecure thinking a lot, right? So, and one of those collections is imposter syndrome. Yeah. And I've been doing that all my professional life, So, and it occurred to me, and I remember when it occurred to me, it was a long time ago, but I was actually on a park and ride bus, and I was like, oh my goodness, my insecure thinking is like the bus. So we have a number 10 bus that comes to our village. I never get on the number 10 bus because it doesn't go to the part of York that I want to go to, and it takes forever. I'd rather go and to the park and ride and get the bus there, and because it goes straight in. So in my mind, I thought, oh, okay. So imposter syndrome is just like a bus I don't want to catch. Yeah. It takes me to a place where I don't get on and do the stuff I want to do. It makes me feel bad about myself, and it can't tell me anything. Well, I don't want to get on that bus. That bus is rubbish. I want to go on a bus that takes me to where I want to be. And so I started to see that actually all I had to do was notice I was doing that thinking. Oh, okay. My my imposter syndrome thinking is back. Okay. All right. Well, that's just like me thinking about, oh, I might go and sit in the garden this afternoon, or whatever. It's just a thought, but and I can pay attention to it. So like getting on the bus, you know, and I can add to that thought and think that thought has a lot of information in it and start making decisions based on that thought. Or I can just notice that it's a thought. Okay. And allow myself to just not pay attention to it and allow the bus to travel past. Now, I don't want that to sound like, oh, okay, this is like a fix. This is like this is how to imposter syndrome, because that's not what any of this is about. It's about understanding like who we are. And there will be times when that imposter syndrome thinking feels really real. It feels really true to me, and that's okay. That's just my thinking doing what it's meant to do, which is creating an experience for me. Same when we were watching a film the other night, and there was a scary bit, I got sucked in. I always get sucked in on films. But that's what our imagination does. It kind of sucks us in. So, there'll be times when it feels really real to me. And that's okay. It's not about fixing any of this stuff. It's about just understanding and being more compassionate about who we are, and not judging the thinking, not thinking, oh, well, I shouldn't be doing this. I need not to do this. I shouldn't do it. There must be a better way. I've got to get rid of this thing, not judging it in any way, just allowing it to be what it is, and allowing it to pass like the bus, because that's what our thinking does. Now, I realize that this live has gone on for a little bit more longer than I anticipated, but it's such a great subject. I'm really enjoying speaking to you about it. And there's one thing else that I really wanted to share with us, and that is, about our true nature. We don't talk about our true nature very much as human beings, and we kind of skirt around it, and we maybe I don't know why we don't want to talk about it, but sometimes we don't. And I think it's really important when we are looking at the myths surrounding imposter syndrome, because imposter syndrome isn't who we are. It's not who we are. Yeah. It's it's not part of our personality. It's or like our essence, if you like. It's not what makes us us, you know? It is, our thinking, it's part of our experience, but who we are in that true nature is, when you're just kind of sitting quietly, and I love to sit in the garden. I mean, I don't want to make out that we've got this amazing kind of landscape. We don't at all, you know? Um, but just sitting in the quiet, sitting in that space with nothing particular on my mind, just being in that moment is, for me, how I kind of touch on my true nature, And when I'm in that true nature, things don't seem to me to be a problem. There is possibility there. There is hope. There is a lovely, quiet confidence, not a go-getting, why, yes, we can do this kind of positive confidence, just like a knowing confidence. And what I've found is the more I've got to know my true nature, yeah, the more, as I was saying, that imposter syndrome, we know that we're off. It's because I started to get really kind of quite selfish, if you like, about feeling in that lovely feeling and being in that lovely feeling. And anything else was just, well, that was optional. And any thinking that I was doing was taking me out of that, was just showing me that I was off. And allowing that to pass so that I could be back in that true nature. And the more that I find that I show up in that, or as far as I can do, because of course I'm still human. I haven't switched off all my thinking magically, then the more enjoyable kind of life becomes, the the more life I can just play a little bit more at life, the more kind of more tied down I feel, or the less tied down I feel. Yeah. And the reason why I'm struggling with words of how to describe it is because all that is kind of beyond words, really. It's beyond how we can describe it. But I'd love for you to explore it more so that you can experience it, because then you'll know more about what I'm talking about. But anyway, this has been lovely. I've had some lovely comments here, thanking me for the explanation, avoiding the burst for now. Yeah, and thank you for your messages yesterday. They were really kind. I had a couple of private messages, and that was really lovely. And remember to share any ideas that you have about what I can talk about during my lives at lunch. And because I'm more than happy to talk about issues that are really, really live for you now, and so that I can help you right now. And remember to like and share, because that's great. And make any comments if you're watching this on catch up. And of course, join me in my Business Revolution group, because we can have more of a conversation there. That's your kind of private space, if you like, to discuss with me some of the issues that I'm talking about now. So until tomorrow, bye bye for now.